I got a separate YouTube channels, and Facebook channels, different pieces of the puzzle, so people could start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, make it a little more fun, and say about German engineering. You see, I left a salt from the sweat on the hat. You see, you notice this part of the hat has been in the sunlight and it's still nice and black, This part of the hat has been in the sunlight, but the sweat with the salt, it speed up the time in the particles, you see? So it speed up the sunlight, with ionization, it's it discolors, Plus the salt is a corrosive. It starts corroding away. Like when you fly over the oceans and stuff. So it starts corroding away at the instrumentations, the engines, and all kind of other stuff, So you got to have routine maintenance. Okay, now I want to show you a little trick, okay? I got to order me another one of these. I need like one of these for each day of the week, so when it gets salt on it, I can wash it, There you go. Got to do maintenance on the aircraft every day, man. All right, you ready? Now I'm going to show you something else about wavelengths, and I did a video on the other channel. And if you find the other channel, you could put the mathematics together, but check it out. We're going to talk about wavelengths, huh? Let's give them a wavelength. Hey, there's a song that says, on a wavelength, my aunt, her name was Pat Miller, And, my mom, her name was Judy Green, and Judy Green Kirk, It says, meet the Millers, man. All right. So I had a Pat Green song, I love a song. It says, a wavelength, surfing the oceans of time and space. Here you go. So we say, well, if we get the right timing, sometimes the rocket goes straight up in the air, but if you're talking about, be very careful with the windows of time and space. It could break. It's just like a window piece of glass, Like a lightning come down and hit the sand, turn everything to glass, and then it become brittle, Same thing with ionization. Things become brittle, So that's why we have to have certain materials like now you can CF, you know what I'm talking about. Because if you do, it's pretty amazing, You see the Amazon helicopter review? Okay, you find that, You see? Angelic, heavenly resources. Or alien heavenly resources. Or American heavenly resources. And I'm going to show you how. Who remembers? I like it. I use a blue marker, blue marker, You know why I like a blue marker is because I got navy blue. Okay. I got a police, Please pay attention. Police, blue, right? And now, this is the best part. You're going to love it, okay? I tell you, you're going to love it, okay? Now, who remembers my avatar? I have a blue avatar. See? For the your quantum physics, huh? Your A team, BA, blue avatar. And if you take the A out, instead of having a repetitive, trying to, you're launching like a 9, like a A9, You take the A out, and you add a little intelligence, and put an O in there, blue aviator, It's like blue aviator. That's the aviation, right? So we say, on the spaceport, we've got blue ocean for the oceans of the world and the oceans in the sky. You see? So we take that away and we say, man, what's this guy talking about? You remember the movie Avatar? It's all about your avatar. You know, I had a little guy with a little hoodie on it. It's a blue hoodie, you know, little, added question marks, you know. Little question marks, you know. And I said, okay. I want to tell you what this movie right here is about, Avatar. Okay? It's a beautiful movie. You know, they had a big tree, and they called it unobtainium. Okay? They call it unobtainium. You see? I'm like, unobtainium? What do you mean? With God, all things are possible. Okay? So what they didn't think about was to look up and think about the good of diplomacy. You see? And when they do that, they go, diplomacy of God, you know, in the sky, you know? And it says, well, you know, the unobtainium then becomes what? You know, there's only one reason why. United Nations, you see? Good of diplomacy. Uno, you see? One nation. In my family, when we say it's on, we mean it's on, you see? So, we tell you about the movie Avatar, okay? And then we say Uniting Nations, okay? We open up the pill box, you know? And we're like, man, what do you mean? Well, we open up the pill box with the correct medicines, and we say, United Nations, obtain intelligence, uniting, you see, mankind. And you can also say, intelligence, you know, universal media. Now that is some interesting stuff. I gotta tell you about this Avatar stuff, though. It's really important. It's probably like the most important thing you ever learn, you know? Why? Because they had a big tree of life. You know, big tree, you know, big tree of life. And all this information in the trees of life, you know? Right? Now, I want you to remember, they had these special helicopters. And they had the one they're trying to design from the movie, you know? All the design's all wrong. It's a special helicopter you have to design, okay? And just, we'll put a big circle here, you know? It's a special helicopter, you know, it's in the bubble. Nobody knows about it just yet, you know? And the one thing about it is, you think of bubbles, right? When you're in a submarine and you breathe out the bubbles float up. The bubbles float up. The bubbles float up. The bubbles float up. The bubbles float up, okay? Now, that's a flow, man, plus the wind and all the other stuff reacting with it. Okay, now, if you find the other movie, you know, the other video about how to design a proper helicopter, you'll see something that looks like a wavelength, like a tunnel, okay? Now, I want to tell you about this tunnel. We call it underwater, you know, and the Navy went down there with the submarines to investigate, and we call it the Gulf Stream, okay? The Gulf Stream, you know? And we went, man, you mean, yeah, that's God's good of diplomacy system too, you know? And that's underwater for the waters above and the waters below. And we said, Finding Dory, man, you know, Dora the Explorer, okay, for North and South America, okay? I told you. We're going to have a whole lot of fun because school is cool, school is fun. And school is for, in case people forgot, fun for uniting nations, a nation of nations, okay? Now, you want to know what the Avatar is about? Well, designing the choppers in the correct form and fashion, okay, it creates the correct wavelengths of water particles and molecules and ions in the sky, and we call that an ionic view, okay? Now, ionic view, okay? And someone said they poison ivy. No, you don't want to be poison ivy. You want to be an ionic educational view, okay? Ionic view education, okay? I told you. That's a John Wayne Ivy. And you guys thought I was kidding, man. I told you. That's like a secret sheriff association, you know? Secret space angels, secret space aliens, you know? Space System America, because we've got Space Camp America, okay? And that's the ACS, you know? And other people would call it, you know, if you put Washington in there, but to disguise it, you know, we say Washington, okay? That's American wisdom if you turn it around. And we like to call it the AWACS system, okay? So you got American wisdom, okay? Angels, cool school, you know? The AWACS system, okay? Now I want to tell you about this, because you get this and you get the other video if you find it, you know? If you're a good problem solver, you'll find the other channels. You know, I made it pretty easy for everyone. But I want to tell you about this. Now, if you have a steady stream with your chopper, right, and you're there, you have these steady streams below and above, and the properly designed chopper with blades, okay? Now, when you tilt to go forward, like my little space submarine, you know, in the air, you know, my space submarine, okay, anybody know about my space submarine yet? Here's my, you know, here's my little tower, okay? My little space submarine tower, you know, with my helicopter blade, you know, for the surface I want to make. And here's my little wing for my my airwolf, you know, you see the airwolf, you know, I'm gonna get my airwolf going there, okay? And what I do is I put my little wing here, you know, and I got my little, you know, captain's bridge, you know, going up to the periscope to see what's up here to make sure this is right. I get my correct tail wing form and fashion here, and I got my little, you know, space submarine, maybe my intakes for my forward engines, you know, I maybe put some back here too, you know, because, you know, my submarine, I had the, you know, little blades here, you know, so gotta make sure I got my tail, you know, going in the right direction, plus my engines here, and I'm making sure I got my intake, you know, for my engines here, you know, heat up a little bit on here, you know, get that kind of nice and warm, and then I get my little, you know, my flow going, and I put my export here, you know, and then what I do is I tilt it forward a little bit, you know, and the blade look a little like this, right? Plus the flex, you know, I got going on. And don't worry about that, because, you know, the blades are throwing the exhaust out here and here. It creates a heat signature around the blades to suck the thickness out, right? Well, no, not really, because what am I doing? Well, because the heat used to be here and it's being chopped up by the blades and it's sucking the stuff out with the heat, you know, slinging the heat around. So I'm like, no, man. It's like a vacuum cleaner, you know, you suck it in here like a vacuum cleaner, making a space vacuum. It goes through the blades, you know, puts it on the outside away from the craft, but when you tilt, it put a heat in front of the craft, okay? Journey to the center of the earth, y'all. Put a heat in front of the craft, and put a heat in the back of the craft, right? So what's it do? Now it creates a flow where I can flow through time and space easier. Okay, now while exiting, you know, it puts the heat up here with the tilt of the blade, so I get the thicker air here, you know, moving up, okay, and flowing in here, you know, and so when I tilt, you know, I've got a wavelength, you see, a wavelength. Now I'm surfing on this wave that I've made with my super chopper, okay, and now I got a heat here, so what's going to happen, because I'm moving through it with a wave behind me, like I'm surfing the oceans of the sea, you know? And I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. So what I do is, like a movie Avatar, remember they all had to fly in formation? Well, that's because we have alien Indians like me that could talk to birds and animals, okay? and I talk it to the birds, and the birds say, you remember when we all fly south and we all fly north, we all fly in a V, in a V pattern, a V pattern. That's like a B-52, And it says, well, when you want to talk about business, you got to have the full deck. Okay, that's, I said, all hands on deck for the United States Navy. Okay, why? Because we are the USNF, United States, Navy Force, okay? And we got, what's the USNF? Well, it's the U.S. Naval Force. And what do they do? Well, if you look at it, okay, some people are dyslexic. You back up a little bit, take a look at the bigger picture, okay? And you want to line it up and you say okay? And they look at that and they go, whoa, I never knew that. Well, if you have both sides of the equation with a common denominator, you say, well, that's a universal force, and that's a universal force. Okay, so what are we doing here? Well, we box it in the middle when we meet in the middle, okay? And that's the, squaration of the algebra that I was talking about. Now we split the problem in half. Now we're getting a compass on the situation where we got the north and south polarities. You see? So now you're talking about magnetism and stuff because of the air particles and the way they work. So we go, well, we knew that already since we had the north and the south poles. But the problem is there's no west and east, So we had to fix that so people would understand. And they go, well, you mean we got a serial number and a naval station, for fixing problems, solutions, solutionists, American nation. So we go, man, that's a pretty good idea. How did a guy teach like that? And he says, well, did you ask the good of diplomacy, the diplomacy of God's children? Now, God's children we like to call cogs, okay? And some people call them Cogswell sprockets, but that's the children of God, the God of creation, Aramaic stuff, So we look at that and we go, you got the CLG, okay? And then you go, that's why we call it and you got sprockets and gears, right? Sprockets and gears make machineries and stuff go around and everything work, So we got, and if you look at that, and that's a big number 3, and you get a lot of education with that, I'm going to say, well, that must be a E3 nuclear science from the United States Navy. And, it's a CWS. You see? CWS. And they go, what is that? Well, create wise systems. Continuance of government systems. Well, be well, man. Be well. Like Bill and Ted's excellent phone adventure, telephone. So we made mobile phones and tricorders, man. And it says, well, be well, because be excellent to each other. Now, if you look at that, then you get the we, and you get I'm on 11, okay? So I'm on 11, and it says we the people. So it says together we get wisdom, universally from both sides. Wisdom universally from both sides, and together we make good education. Now, when I follow my compass, that's the compass that I look at. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm like, hey, we got a north, we got an education, we got a solutions, and we got wisdom. Nobody ever thought of it like that. I'm like, hey, that's a nation educating solutions wisely. Now that's my compass to make the clock go around. Forwards or backwards? You want it backwards? Okay. New wisdom solve education. New wisdom solves education. Or new wisdom solutions. News wise. Solutions. That's the good news. Father, Son, Holy Ghost. News. You see? That's the lightning of God, man. Wisdom, you see? Okay, there you go. Now that's another lesson for the day.